All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new JLI course. We're going to have four lessons on this course. The course is entitled "For All Humankind," which is Judaism's message to all of humankind. I think it's a very apropos course. Um, and I think also it's more relevant today than it was ever. And we will see why, and we'll talk about that throughout tonight. But without further ado, let's jump right in. We're going to be working on lesson one tonight. Lesson one is going to be observing perhaps what the first Jew contributed. Who was the first Jew? Abraham. What the first Jew contributed, not just to the Jewish people, but to all of humankind, understanding what the world Abraham emerged and was born into in Ur Kasdim, and how maybe the ancient primitive idol worship sounds outdated, but there's a parallel in today's world of, does idol worship still exist? Is it still something that's out there? Maybe the bowing down to idols is not so prevalent anymore, but maybe there's a substitute, and we're going to learn about that tonight. So let's jump right in. Without further ado, we'll open up on lesson one. I believe you're opening up to page number 2 or page number 3 in your student books. So let's get started. Ken, if you get us started, please. A tradition of distinction versus universal mission.
A tradition of distinction versus universal mission. In today's world, where questions of inclusion and exclusion dominate discussions, the subject of Judaism's role in the broader global landscape is highly relevant. Is Judaism a members-only club, exclusive to those born into it, or does it contain a universal message meant for all of humanity?
Let's do exercise 1.1.
Okay. You want me to read on a scale
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 represents completely universal, for example, open to all with a message intended for everyone, and 5 represents completely exclusive, for example, private, insular, and primarily for a select group, where would you place Judaism?
What do you guys think? Between 1 to 5. Mike?
You
You
You're
say
not gonna
3.
like. You're
3 is
gonna
always
like.
the safe answer.
Three
I was
is
going
the
to say in the
safe
middle.
answer,
Yeah.
and I was going to say 3, but I also would say that there are
You might like
several
this.
ways. Wendy's here.
I'm
Um,
here. I'm with one of my neighbors. We're putting together a Mother's Day hat,
Okay.
but I can multitask.
Okay,
okay,
sure. Welcome. Okay.
okay. We're on page 3, Wendy.
Well, I'm not doing pages, but just
Okay,
Okay,
you'll just listen in.
I'm just
Perfect.
listening in. Okay,
okay.
thank you.
Perfect.
And
There,
can you
there
just
are different. Excuse me, Wendy. We were
okay?
starting to
No
read on
worries.
page 3.
Okay.
Um, there are different kinds of ways, there are different approaches to being Jewish. And I know that the traditional one is the one that we are focusing on in this course. But I would
But
say that there are kinds of, like Reform Judaism, as I understand it, tends to be between 1 and 2 on this scale. And there are some versions of Hasidism which are between 4 and 5. The people who really don't want anything to do with the outside world. So I would say 3. Oh, Dale is coming in too.
nice. Okay. Barry or Bernice, any comments on that?
I think Mike kind of hit it. I would have probably gone to 4. I would say that the more orthodox would be tended to be more exclusive, but Mike's certainly right. I think Reform, Reconstructionists, whatever the different views are, would be much more universal.
Okay. Ken?
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say at the beginning, right in the middle, and it's something you discussed last Saturday. And forgive me, I don't remember all the specifics and the names, but
Yeah,
person who wasn't allowed to camp with the tribe they considered themselves to be of. So
yeah.
it's not exactly inclusive at that point.
Okay, great. All right. So this is pretty much where if we're talking traditional, old, traditional Judaism, I think the sense is that that's where we're at. You look at the communities in New York, the communities in Israel, they're just so insular and so exclusive. And there's big signs. If you want to walk in, you got to look a certain way. Why? Because that's really what we think. So let's explore that. We're going to explore that today. So there's definitely that perception. And if you look at if you ever tried explaining your I don't know, Passover to your doctor, does it sound like you're expressing some universal message, or you're like, hey, this is our little club, this is how we do our little thing? It's extremely, you know, I would say exclusive. This is how we do our kosher, we do our Passover, we do our Rosh Hashanah, we do Yom Kippur. This is not a message for humanity. That's really what it thinks. So let's see. Um, um, when God chose, and we're going to talk about chosen at the end of today's class, okay? So I know a lot of Jews have a hard time with that word. But when God chose the Jewish people, and we'll understand what that means, so I'm sure everyone has a preconceived notion. It was by the revelation at Mount Sinai when God gave the Jewish people the Ten Commandments. Now, these Ten Commandments, before Hashem gave them the Ten Commandments, there was a discussion. There was an introduction of sorts that God told Moses. And let's look at text 1a. Text 1a is this introduction that God told the Jewish people before he married and chose the Jewish people. Let's see, Mike.
Could I pass on this round? I'm trying to help Dale and
Okay, sure. Yes, Barry, please.
Moses went up to God, and God called to him from the mountain, saying, This is what you shall say to the house of Jacob and tell the children of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. And now, if you will listen to my voice and keep my covenant, you will be my treasured nation from among all the peoples, for the entire earth is mine. And you will be for me a kingdom, a priest, and a holy nation. These are the words you shall speak to the children of Israel.
So this is some of this sounds familiar. There's a comedian in Israel. His name is Guy Hochman. So in Hebrew, segol is purple. So we say we're Am Segula. So he says we're known as the purple nation. But that's always like he's making fun. But we are known as the chosen nation, or the cherished, the treasured nation, right? Okay. So this is the relationship that God had for the Jewish people, that you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And then he says, go and speak to the Jewish people. What comes right after that are the Ten Commandments. Let's see what text 1b, 1c looks like. Bernice, please.
The target audience. I am your God who took you out of Egypt from the house of slavery. A Jewish heritage. The Torah that Moses commanded us is the heritage of the community of Jacob. Do you want me to continue or
So let's
stop?
just pause here for a second. So what do we see from here? Number one, I am God, your God who took you out of Egypt. So is this universal or is this exclusive? Sounds exclusive. The next thing is the Torah's what? Torah that Moses commanded us, the heritage, the community of Jacob, not the community of who knows who. It's the Jewish people. So we're kind of building this perception that I don't know how universal we are based on what we're building here. This looks like a little bit of a club for the exclusive. But let's keep on going. Source number 2 from our dear favorite Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs. Um, let's see. The code of difference. Mike, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, go
The,
ahead.
sor- the source of pride and resentment. Jewish law imposes a code of difference. Jews are not to be like all the nations. Internally, this was a source of pride expressed in Balaam's blessing. It is a people that dwells apart, not reckoned among the nations. Externally, it was a source of resentment caught in Haman's complaint to Ahasuerus. There is a certain people, scattered and dispersed, whose laws are different from those of any people.
So we have this again. Rabbi Sachs says what? That this kind of exclusive separateness creates resentment. So we say that yes, there's pride and connection within Judaism, but what is that? That's internally. And externally, what does that cause? It causes suspicion, resentment. It's true. Look what all these anti-Semites say. You know, there's like this exclusive cabal of Jews running the whole entire world. Okay. So it actually really does sound like a members only club. Let's keep on fortifying this idea on text 3a, talking about converts. Now you'll see, this text might make your eyebrows go up, but let's see. Um, Dale, you don't have the materials, do you? That's okay. Let's go back to Ken. Ken, let's do text 3a and then pause and we'll do 3b.
Outsiders unwelcome. What is the meaning of that which is written? He who serves as a guarantor for a stranger shall suffer evil. This means evil after evil will befall those who accept converts.
Evil after evil will befall those who accept converts. Now, holy moly, how many great leaders of our people were converts? There are many. Onkelos, and there's many that we could point to. So what's going on over here? So Tosfos, which is the grandson of Rashi, he lived in the Middle Ages, 12th and 13th century. He gives an explanation of what this means, evil after evil. Let's see Ken 3b, please.
Genuine interest required. Evil after evil will befall those who accept converts. Rabbi Yitzchak said, this refers to instances where non-Jews are encouraged to convert, or if they are accepted too readily and immediately. However, if they demonstrate a genuine and earnest effort to embrace the faith, we are obliged to accept them.
We all know this idea that Judaism does not encourage conversion. If you were to say, from a Jewish perspective, is this something that we try to go out and missionize? The answer is no. We know this to be true. Judaism does not missionize at all. Conversion is up to the persistence and sincerity of the convert. It's not because we're playing hard to get. It's not because we're trying to make them want it, but the entire process of conversion, the burden of the conversion is placed squarely on the individual who wants to convert. The door is shut and they have to knock and knock and knock. How many times? 3 times they have to sincerely approach a bet din, a Jewish court, and say they want to convert, and 3 times they have to push the person and dissuade them. Why? Again, it's not a reverse psychology thing. It's because we believe a certain thing, which is, we'll talk about that a little bit later, what we believe, why that is. But again, we're just fortifying this idea that this is not a universal message type of religion. That's the idea. So before we go into the next section, what do you guys think? Any questions or comments?
Can you hear me?
Yes, Dale. Shalom and
Oh.
welcome.
Oh, okay.
We don't see you, but we do hear you.
Okay. I don't know why, but what can I say?
Do you have the material with you?
No, I don't.
Okay, then we'll get you the book for next time.
Mhm.
Rabbi, can I ask a question?
Sure, Barry. Go
Just
ahead.
thinking about it, I remember been a lot of years since I took a science course, but they always talk about to survive, a species has to adapt. Do you think religion can be successful without adapting to changing times?
It's a great question. I'm going to say
Well, I
something.
think don't we believe that the Torah is always adapting and being interpreted according
We
to
have
the
to
time?
we have to define the question first. That's a good point, Dale.
Yeah.
Got to define the question. It's a good point, Dale. Yes. The idea that there are new technologies and we have to constantly square that up to how we deal with what does Judaism say about the latest about AI? What does Judaism say about IVF treatment? What does Judaism say about all these latest technologies? Is something we have to constantly do. But if the but I do think that if a religion were to modify their core belief system based on the times and based on what might be popular, what might be accepted at any given time, I believe, and it's a little bit, might be considered radical, that that is the first demise of the religion. And the reason why Jews have survived all this time for the last 3,000 years and the last 2,000 years specifically, without a temple, without a center for Judaism, we're being not only we didn't have a center, not only were we dispersed, but we were actively hunted down in many of these centuries in the last 2,000 years. And yet we're still here. Why? I think the answer is if you look at anyone's grandparents, anyone on this call or anyone our age, their grandparents or great grandparents were all observant, 100% committed to Judaism, the same Judaism that King David and Moses did. So I think the more we're committed to the authentic Yiddishkeit is the more we're going to make sure, the more unchanged we are, the more, in a sense, unadaptable we are, the more we're going to ensure that we're going to exist. Now, again, we do have to adapt in terms of what is the core principle of Judaism. How do we relate to driving a car on Shabbat, or like I said, IVF, and like I said, life support and organ donations and all these latest technologies. And because of medicine, we have all these things. So we have to say, what does Judaism say about this? But the core belief systems, the holidays, the belief systems, the traditions, if we were to do away with these things, our great grandkids won't be Jewish. The more we hold on to it, the more is going to ensure that they remain. That's my
But
opinion.
if you go with the Hasidus point of view, which is every Jew
Mhm.
is on a journey, and it's one mitzvah at a time. So if you only buy into one mitzvah, you're still on the journey.
Oh,
It's not an all or nothing. It's a
it's not
smorgasbord,
it's not an all or nothing in practice, but it's an all or nothing in
right?
which
In the core,
it's yeah, not only that, it's an all or nothing in what is considered authentic Yiddishkeit. That's all or nothing. Now, I might not be able to do everything today. That's fine. But to say that, oh, as Jews, we could now eat pork, or as Jews, instead of doing Passover in April, we're now going to do it in the summer because it's more comfortable, or as Jews, we're not going to blow the horn of a animal because I feel bad human animal rights, and now I'm going to start blowing the trumpet. And if we're going to start mending what Yiddishkeit is, then we have an expiration date. But if we say a shofar has to be a shofar, period, end of story. A pig cannot be kosher, period, end of story. If we have the core tenets of Yiddishkeit and say, okay, could be today, whatever. I like a piece of bacon too much. I'll just eat it once a week instead of every day. All right. Don't tell your rabbi. But you know where it's at. That's the difference. Right? I think we agree. I'm just trying to point it out. Okay. Let's keep on going, ladies and gentlemen. So we have some questions. We have not some questions. We're pointing out a very interesting idea, which is it seems like the separateness of Judaism may also insinuate that there is this exclusive field, exclusive aura around Yiddishkeit, and
But
that's
could
what we're
I?
trying to go for. Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, it just seems to me that there's one key point here, that what we're talking about so far is identity, not belief.
Not with the class. What we are discussing.
No, in this first section that we're just finishing, that the questions that we're asking is who are we,
Yes.
not what
Are we inward or outward? Right? Are we exclusive or are we
that is the question. But in this first part, the way we've answered it is our identity. Are you a Jew? Not what do you believe as a Jew? What do you hold to be the core principles of Judaism? But you are a Jew, and we talk about converts. That's identity. We talk about
Yeah, but
you
we're
know
trying,
we
I agree with you, but we're trying to highlight that it seems that Judaism comes across as a very
As
exclusive.
exclusionary.
Yes.
as exclusionary, but so far we're exclusionary in is identity.
Yes, yes. Okay, yes. Yes. Good point. Not in practice. Yes. Okay. Okay. Section 2. So let's see the birth of universal responsibility. I think we're back to Barry, correct? Think so. Yeah. Mike, you just read? Yeah. So Barry, go ahead.
The birth of universal responsibility. To better understand Judaism, let's trace its roots back to its very beginning, starting with Abraham, the first Jew. To fully appreciate the revolution he represents, we need to contrast him with Noah, the righteous figure who came before him. Specifically, we will compare Noah's response when informed of the impending flood with Abraham's reaction when God revealed his plan to destroy the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Okay, so you know about Abraham and Noah, then 10 generations later was Abraham. It was Adam and Eve. Adam, 10 generations later was Noah. 10 generations after that was Abraham. So we're going to contrast Noah and Abraham. I think some of you might know where we're going with this, but let's see. Noah, text 4, God tells us that Noah was. Barry, let's read text 4 as well. It's a short one, please.
Noah found favor in the eyes of God. Noah was a righteous man, perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God.
What can you say bad about this guy, right? Sounds pretty good.
Well, but you're saying perfect in his generation. So
Aha.
there's, yeah, a little bit of a caveat.
A little bit of a little extra line there that might
Yeah,
get out of
yeah,
control.
yeah.
You
And
know,
it
if you're
wasn't the best of times.
right, if everyone is corrupted. You have one guy that's half decent. Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
the answer is Rashi actually talks about it. Rashi says that Noah. There's two ways to look at that extra line. One way is the way Dale's saying, Noah. He was in a generation, a bunch of immoral thugs. So he had a half of moral compass, so he's righteous. That's one way. The other way to look at it is Noah. If he's in such a terrible generation and he's righteous and he's moral, could you imagine if he's in a moral generation? What type of saint he would be then? Okay, I'm not going to say who's right or wrong, but what we're going to do is we're going to analyze Noah. Noah was an obedient man. God told him, listen, Noah, the whole generation's corrupted. It talks about in the commentaries that a woman would go to the marketplace to buy bread. Before she came home, the bread was stolen. And not only was the bread stolen, she was probably violated sexually and everything on the way home. It was the most lawless, grotesque generation. There was theft, there was immorality, there was bribery. It was horrible. So God says this is beyond repair. We're going to press the big red reset button on my desk, and we're going to do a flood, and we're going to reset, and we're going to start again the human race from Noah. Noah had 3 children, which each went to go father a people. That's why we say anti-Semites, anti-Semites. This comes from Noah's son Shem, Sem, which is this is where it comes from. That the Jews come from Shem. But let's not get into that detail right now. The point is, when God told Noah to build an ark, what did he do? He built an ark. Now, when you build a massive boat in the middle of your city, people say, yo, Noah, how are you going to get this boat to the river? Or how are you going to get this boat to the ocean? So what did Noah answer? No, 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 ladies and gentlemen, the ocean's coming to us because you're not behaving well. Hashem wants to destroy the whole world through a flood. And then the I'm building this so that I could survive with my family over this flood. Why did Hashem want Noah to do that? Because people would hear about the impending destruction and they would turn their way, they would repent. So Noah checked all the boxes. God said he's going to destroy the world. Noah said, okay, I'm safe. All right, I'm good, right? My family's good. All right, what do you want me to do? Build an ark. No problem. He got his hammer and nails out and he started building an ark.
But he didn't do what Abraham did.
Oh, he didn't do what Abraham did. Abraham, we'll see soon. Next page, text number 5.
He was trying to bargain for more people to be
Ah,
included, and that is a big difference.
Abraham had a whole different attitude. Abraham said, Hashem, let's first, before we get to Abraham, why was Noah not chosen to be the father of the Jewish people if he was a righteous man? He was righteous. God saved him out of all of humanity. No. God said, no. This guy's is not going to be the father of the Jewish people. Why? We're going to learn about this now. And we're going to read the text in a second. Noah focused on his own survival. He said, if I'm good, no problem. Abraham, as we're going to see, when God wanted to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, what did Abraham do? Abraham had
He said,
chutzpah.
yeah.
He negotiated with God. He was concerned for everyone, even those who were unworthy. Abraham, look, well, I don't know if we should read this text. It's a very long text, but Abraham basically negotiated with God. How could a just God not do righteous things? A just God should not do a just thing. How could you destroy the wicked and the innocent, and the wicked and the righteous together in what's concerning Sodom and Gomorrah? And what did God say? Okay, what do you suggest? So he says, what if I could find 50 righteous people in Sodom? So God says, you know what? If you find 50, I'm not going to destroy the city. And then he couldn't find 50. So he went down to 45. Then he went down to 40. Then he went down to 30, to 20, to 10. Abraham says, what if I find 10? And he went down. He couldn't even find 10 that God should not destroy the city of Sodom. But what do we see here? It's a personality difference. Noah was concerned about himself. So yes, he was righteous, but his idea was he was only cared about him and his family. Abraham cared about the entire world, people he never met. Not many people he never met, people that were absolutely unworthy. They were immoral. They were literally like the same generation of Noah. Yet Abraham cared for them. And when God saw that, God said, aha, you are now going to father the Jewish nation because of that character trait that Abraham had. So Abraham appealed to God with two things, tzedakah and mishpat. You'll see it in Abraham's negotiations with God. He says these two words. He says, Hashofet kol haaretz lo ya'aseh mishpat. Number one, how could you do a just thing, which is justice? And number two, righteousness. You're a righteous God. So let's see. So let's see. Let's keep on going. So we see from here that Abraham had this personality trait, and that's why God decided that personal piety is not enough to father the Jewish nation, but a deep concern for everyone is what's going to make you eligible to father the Jewish nation. Let's look at section 3 here. We'll go to Bernice, please. If you could read that paragraph, Abraham's legacy, the blueprint for a moral world.
Abraham's legacy, rooted in righteousness and justice, laid the groundwork for a moral vision meant for all humanity. Abraham's values are a blueprint for building a just and compassionate society and are encapsulated in the 7 Noahide laws, the ethical framework given to all humanity.
Let's do text 6, please.
God's love explained. I love Abraham because of his commitment to guide his children and followers to follow God's path and uphold righteousness and justice.
So you ever heard of the expression tikkun olam, right? This idea of tikkun olam. So I'm not sure in different contexts it's used for different things. But this idea of concern for all of humanity, that is a Jewish concept. Why is it a Jewish concept? Because this is the character trait of Abraham. Abraham's legacy was a care for all humankind, a care for the world around us. 20, I think 27% of all donations given in 2021, I believe that was the year. Sorry, 2019. Pew Research in 2019, I think 27% of all donations given in the United States from private hands to organizations was Jewish donors. It's in our
I can
blood.
believe that.
You drive by any hospital in the middle of, Kentucky, I don't know where, and
It's
you
true.
see Rosenberg on the wall over there. This is a Jewish thing. Why? Because it's in our DNA that we have to care for humanity. And where do we get this from? Abraham. Abraham taught this to us. So that's why Abraham was the first Jew, and that's part of the Jewish story. Not just that Abraham just did it himself, but he had to make a program and program a people that this is how we think about the world around us. And Abraham was the one to exemplify that right away. We're going to learn about Abraham's story soon, the details of Abraham's story in a moment, but this was the idea. And that is why God chose him to be the first Jew, because he taught others to follow the path of righteousness and justice. Okay, so what does that mean to teach others to follow the path of righteousness and justice? What does that mean? So let's look at the 7 laws, 7 Noahide laws. We're going to learn about them tonight. This is from the Rambam. Out of the 7 Noahide laws, we are going to touch on, and we're going to delve into the first 2 today. But let's first see text number 7a from the Rambam. Ken, please.
The Noahide Code. God commanded Adam concerning 6 matters. He forbade idolatry, cursing God, murder, illicit sexual relations, and theft. And he instructed him to establish a judiciary. To Noah, God added another prohibition, consuming a limb torn from a living animal.
So this is the 7 Noahide laws. So you might have heard the term, but they sound almost like the 10 Commandments, but they're a little different. The first 5 are almost parallel to 5 of the 10 Commandments. There's the 6th one, which doesn't exist in the 10 Commandments, and the 7th one also not directly. But but the question is, why do the 7 Noahide laws, how are they relevant to the Jewish people? I mean, we have 613 commandments. Probably these are included. But why is the 7 Noahide laws also said to the Jewish people? So the answer is that the physical descendants of Abraham, which we are, the one thing you could say about the Jewish people, you could say we're a little different. We're all, Jews, Sephardic, Ashkenazic, this type of Jew, that type of Jew. But one thing you could say is that we're all physically related to one another because we all came from Abraham. That so makes a Jew a Jew. Now, you can have people to convert in, that's the spiritual descendants of Abraham, but taking on Abraham's moral code. But the idea is that it's our responsibility as physical descendants of Abraham to teach these laws to the entire world, the entire universe. Everyone needs to hear these laws. Let's look at Maimonides again, 7b. Ken, if you can read 7b as well.
The nation of influencers. Moses relayed the divine command to ensure that all inhabitants of the world accept the Noahide laws.
So, these days you have all these influencers. I think the Jews were the original influencers. That what? There's 613 for the Jewish people. And then there are 7 laws that are for universal laws to teach to all of humanity. So the answer is, so 7, I mean, what's the big deal? It sounds pretty easy. I mean, your average guy does the 7, right? So the answer is not so fast, because each one of these 7 include in it a bundle of laws. Let's look again from Sefer Chinuch on text 8. Mike, please.
It's not just 7. Do not be misled by the number 7 when it comes to the Noahide laws, even though this number is well known and cited in the Talmud. These 7 laws are not 7 isolated commands, but 7 broad categories encompassing many specific laws. For instance, the prohibition of illicit sexual relations is counted as one Noahide law, yet it includes many distinct prohibitions. Likewise, the prohibition of idolatry is a single law that contains numerous details, and the prohibition of theft covers all conduct that leads to theft, such as coveting.
Interesting. So you're not allowed to be jealous because that's part of the umbrella of not stealing. So when we have three clear points from these texts we've been reading. Number one, there are 7 universal laws for all of humanity, and the Torah gives us these seven laws. Number two, who's responsible to teach them? Who's responsible to be the light onto the nations and to teach these? The Jewish people. It's our responsibility to teach them to the nations of the world. And number three, that these 7 Noahide laws are the moral foundation to which we build upon it the morality of all civilizations. There are 7 for all of humanity. Jews have to teach it, and it's essential for the morality of every civilization. Next week, we're going to talk about the shortcomings of logic, etc. Logical-based morality. We're not going to talk about that this week, but the concept is that this is responsibility of the Jewish people to spread these out because these are essential for human race. Okay. Let's do text number 9. Barry, please. Pretty radical text.
Anyone who accepts these 7 laws and observes them is counted among the righteous of the nations and has a share in the world to come.
That's a very powerful. Yeah, go ahead. No, 1 second. Let's just pause here for 1 second. It's a very powerful statement. That if you have someone who does these 7 Noahide laws together with whatever they might encapsulate each one, but if they observe the 7 Noahide laws, they have a share in the world to come. That, in my opinion, is very unique to Judaism. I don't know of another religion that says you don't have to be religious, you don't have to be Jewish to join whatever spiritual reward of that religion, what it has to offer. Christianity doesn't agree with that. Islam certainly doesn't agree with that. If you want to be part of whatever, you gotta believe. What'd you say? Someone said something? No?
There's something about, and it may be part of why we get in trouble with others. There's this, everyone is beneath us, so to speak.
Oh, wait.
We're going to teach everybody.
The chosen issue? You mean the chosen people issue?
Not necessarily chosen, but just the idea that we're a light to the nations and we're going to teach. Our thing has the 7 laws that you're supposed to follow, and everything is sort of dictated down. I can't explain it. I don't feel that way, but I can see where someone on the outside looking in might.
I hear you. Listen, it's our job to do it in a way where people don't feel that way. But I could understand if you're coming with your wagging finger, it might not be accepted so well. But we'll talk. I think when we talk about the chosen people at the end of today's class, the idea of chosen, what that means, we're going to touch on that a little bit because it's also this like, well, we're chosen, we're better. We're going to understand what that means. But do we proselytize as Jews? No. Do we have a universal message? Absolutely.
But that adds more of because then that smells of what we were talking about before, exclusivity, and us having all the answers, can be looked. I don't agree. I'm just saying it can be looked at from a negative. Sorry, but go on.
No, I hear that. I'm not sure what to say other than it has
I'm
to be
not
done.
sure either what to say to
I
others.
just say it has to be done in a non
Quality.
preposterous, boastful, haughty way. But yeah, the fact that we believe we have the truth, we don't have to shrink and be small about. But the way we deliver it, we have to do it with humility. 100%. Yeah. That's the same idea of with the chosen. In other words, we don't have to shy away from that fact, but we have to understand what that means and approach it with humility. That's all. But let's keep on going. So the question is, okay, so let's go. What? So the goal of tonight's class is not just to encourage everybody to, hey, you got to go and knock on your neighbor's door and harass the heck out of them to do the seven no-hide laws. Maybe that is what you're supposed to do. But what is more important before you even start doing that is to understand what that means to us internally. In other words, if this is what God had in mind for us, and that is true, and we see all the texts and all the sources for that, then we have to be able to sit with it at home. It has to sit well at home first before we talk to anybody about it. A, what those things mean, and B, what does it mean? What is my job? So what we're going to do now is um, we're going to look at a little bit of of what that means to Jews. Now that we know what we're supposed to do, what does that look? How do we relate to it internally? Forget about what we're going to tell the world. How do we relate to this idea internally? That's what we're going to look at right now. And we're going to have the first text from Rabbi Menachem Meiri about the seven Noahide laws. Are we, Bernice? Yes.
Four Torah principles. Anyone who engages in the study of the seven Noahide laws, their principles, their details, and their applications, in which most of the Torah's core teachings are contained, is worthy of great honor, even as much as the high priest himself.
That's crazy. That last statement is insane.
True.
The Torah's core teaching and contained, if somebody follows, a non-Jew that follows the seven Noahide laws, is worthy of great honor, even as much as the high priest himself. Hello. No religion on planet Earth teaches this. And we're not just saying cute things to sound cute to the world, so we sound all kumbaya. This is real stuff. These are great halachic authorities and commentators that wrote this. So the seven Noahide laws are the basic backbone of every civilization. Respect for life, respect for truth, respect for other people's property, respect for justice. So if we have an appreciation for these ideas, then it's impossible for us to not want to share them. That this is what our teachings are. The core of the Torah, the core of Jewish morality, are these incredible basic teachings for all of civilization, and we should feel that we want to, share it. But let's first see. So our job is first to internalize before we talk about sharing. But we first have to appreciate what they mean to us. So to do that, we're going to explore the first two of the seven Noahide laws. And today, in the rest of today's class, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into them, and we're going to appreciate how revolutionary they were and how relevant they are today. How revolutionary they were at the time that they were instructed, and how relevant they still are today. Because you talk to me about bowing down to marble structures and wooden structures. I mean, come on. So here's what we're gonna do. So the goal is that when we finish tonight, we feel excited that our belief system, our religion has these amazing beliefs, and that's hopefully what we're gonna walk away with. So number one, the first two are the belief in God, monotheism, and number two, monotheism, and number two is the prohibition against cursing God. Two different things. Number one, the belief in one God, what that means. And number two, the prohibition against cursing God. So Ken, let's read on the on is that page 19? The world before and after Abraham.
Page 18. Okay.
18.
Abraham's monotheism has a transformative impact on the paganistic world he was born into. This belief reshaped not only his own life and that of his descendants, but also the course of history. Remarkably, Abraham's message remains as relevant today as ever, and it challenges us to always be aware of the true one behind all that exists.
So, yeah, beautiful. So Rambam is going to give us a little bit of a background of the world that Abraham was born into. So he's the father of monotheism, but Abraham's father was nowhere near a monotheist person at all. So let's see. Mike, bevakasha, text number 11a.
Youth from the Rambam. As soon as Abraham, this mighty soul, was weaned, he began to think on his own. Even as a young child, his mind would wander and question by day and by night. He had no teacher and no one to guide him. He was mired among the foolish idol worshippers of Kasdim. His father, his mother, and everyone around him served idols, and he too would join them. Yet his heart kept searching and his mind kept probing. Eventually, he discovered the true path, and through his own sound reasoning, grasped what was right. He came to understand that there must be one God who created everything, and that among all that exists, there is no other God but him.
So Abraham asked dangerous questions. Questions that at the time was considered completely controversial. And like questions like, if this statue was made yesterday, then who made the person who made it? And just like basic, questioning of the norms. So let's keep on reading. And again, we're going to show how, yet although it sounds primitive and old-fashioned, but there is a message here. Barry, please, text 11b.
Terah was an idol maker and salesman. He once went out and left Abraham in charge of the shop. People would come in to buy idols, and Abraham would question them. How old are you? He'd ask. 50 or 60, they would reply. You poor fellow, Abraham would explain. Imagine that a man of 60 bowing down to something made yesterday. Embarrassed, the customers would turn around and leave. A woman came in carrying a bowl of fine flour. Here, she said, offer this before them. Abraham took a stick, smashed all the idols, and placed the stick in the hands of the largest one. When Terah returned and saw the destruction, he demanded, who did this to my idols? I must be honest with you, Abraham replied. A woman brought an offering of flour. When I set it before them, they started fighting. One said, I'll eat first, and another said, no, I will. The biggest one got angry, grabbed the stick, and smashed them all. Are you mocking me? Terah cried. You know they can't think or move. Abraham answered, listen to your own words.
He's a great salesman, right?
Yep.
Imagine you're trying to sell cars and this guy's your salesman. But that's what he did. He was an idol mart in the center of Main Street over there. And anyone who walked in, Abraham was tending the other way until he literally destroyed his whole father's shop. And this was the punchline. And once the king of Ur Kasdim found out what Abraham did, he wanted it. He captured him eventually, and he threw him into a furnace of a fiery furnace. The Torah recounts the story. But what are we talking about here? Abraham himself took on an entire generation of idol worshippers. And once he had to run away from Ur Kasdim, he didn't sit around with his own belief system. He started putting on the miles on his feet. He went from place to place and town to town and said, guys, wake up. There's a God on planet Earth. Recognize him. Serve him. What are you serving these nonsense? Let's see 11c. Bernice, please.
Once Abraham recognized and understood the truth, He began to challenge the people of Ur Kasdim, debating with them and showing that their way was false. When his arguments prevailed, the king sought to put him to death, but a miracle occurred, and Abraham escaped to Haran. There he began to call out with a mighty voice to all humanity, teaching that there is one God and that he alone is worthy of worship. He would travel from city to city and from kingdom to kingdom, proclaiming this message and gathering followers wherever he went. As people assembled around him and questioned his ideas, Abraham would explain according to their understanding, guiding them step by step until they came to recognize the truth. In time, thousands and tens of thousands joined him. These were the people of the house of Abraham, in whose hearts he firmly planted the great principle of faith.
It's not bad for someone with no marketing budget, huh? Did pretty good. Bootstrapped the whole program.
Mm.
But we know that Abraham was called Abraham HaIvri. You ever heard that word before, Ivri?
No.
Ivri is Hebrew for, I mean, today you call it the Jew. In Russian, a Jew is called the Yivrei. If you look at Yosef, Yosef was called Yosef also. He was Yosef Atzad, but also referred to the Ivri. Who's this Ivri? When the whole story happened with what was the name of his boss in Egypt? My mind went blank. Potiphar. With Potiphar's
yes.
wife. What did she tell him? Look what this Ivri did. He's trying to seduce me. He's trying to mess with me, right? The Jews were called Ivri. What does Ivri mean? The Hebrew, right? Like Ivrit, right? What does that come from? It comes from this Abraham HaIvri. What does Ivri mean? The other side. It literally means the one that came from the other side. That's what it means. So why do we say that? Because let's look at text 12. Let's look at text 12 a second. Bernice, let's do 12 as well, please.
A fugitive reported to Abram the Hebrew that Lot had been taken captive. Rabbi Yehuda said, Abraham is called the Hebrew because the entire world was on one side and he was on the other.
So Ivri comes from the word ever, which means a side. And Ivri means the one on the other side. So this is literally today the word ivrit, which is the Hebrew word for the word Hebrew for the language, comes from this, the one from the other side. So Abraham was the first to introduce this idea. He didn't only sit still, he battled the world single-handedly, and he probably created the biggest revolution ever. To do what? To bring attention to the one God, monotheism. So question on monotheism. Number one, does Abraham's message, is it relevant to us today? Okay, we believe, most of the world believes that there's a creator or whatever, or if you don't believe, I don't know, maybe you're atheist, but I'm saying most of the world believes there's a creator. So how relevant is it today? And also back then, what was going on in the world? It was like the view of paganism is that there are gods battling with each other, and there are millions of gods, or I don't know what. And if you serve this god, maybe this god won't get angry with you, or maybe the other gods can get jealous of the fact that you're serving this god, so you have to serve both of them. You're in a world of absolute chaos, a world of complete at the mercy of cosmic battling forces. That's what it was. That's paganism. So the first question is this idea still relevant today? I don't know if we live in that society. Do we live in that society where we're fearful that we're going to piss off one God? I mean, not really. We're giving offerings to this one. And number two, the more the merrier. Who cares if there's many? Let there be many. Why is it so important to believe in one? Why not believe? Okay, there's a lot. Who cares? Number one, is it relevant? Number two, seemingly the more the merrier. Why is it a problem to believe that there are many? Let's look at the question on page 24. Why does Judaism place such an emphasis on there being one God? Question mark. Number two, how does this simplify or complicate our understanding of the world and our place in it? Anybody want to attempt to answer? Okay.
Well, it does
Yeah, go ahead.
it creates more of a universality to the world and the people in it, and more of a sense of universal community if there's one God, because then it's not everybody. It's kind of like one nation under God. It's like, yeah, it does sort of co-join us better as a universe of people. Because if everybody's doing their own thing, like, really not with one umbrella concept, it's a little more divisive.
Okay, so it makes more, if everyone believes in one God,
It
bring
makes
people
everyone have
together.
something in common.
Everyone
Yeah.
account. Okay.
It helps
Okay.
give us an identity, what Mike alluded to before, because what makes all Jews common, no matter how they practice it, is that they believe in the God of Abraham, essentially.
But we're saying this is for all of humanity, right? Right? Like what? So you're
Right.
basically saying that what Dale's saying, the same idea, right? That it would create this thing, this commonality. Mike, you had something you wanted to add?
Because this was
Yes.
not a concept of, I mean, it's a Jewish concept, and he's the father of Judaism and all that. But the concept he took out to everybody. I think
Yeah.
that's the way you're saying. I didn't realize that. Okay.
I wasn't going as deep as all of that analysis. I mean, the question is, why does Judaism place such an emphasis on there being one God? And for me, the answer is sort of simplistically because that's what it says in the Torah, that's one of the commandments, that's what Jews have taught the world since forever. I mean, that to me is why we place such an emphasis on it. Now, I mean, is there something more that we're asking here?
Yeah. I'll give you. Let me ask the question differently. We know that the holiest thing in Judaism is a human life, which means that if it says in Shabbat, you're not allowed to kindle a flame. Oh, but to save a human life, because a human life is holier than Shabbat, so we kindle a flame on Shabbat if a human life is at risk, right? There are many laws. Almost all the laws of the Torah are suspended when you have to preserve a human life. The exception is idolatry. If someone says, bow down to this idol and serve this God, or else I will take your life. So, do you bow down to the God to preserve your life? You don't. You allow the person to take your life. So, that's just bringing out how strong Judaism believes in monotheism. It's so
Yes.
important, right? That strengthens the question a little bit. So, why is it so important? Why is it so essential? Okay, so Barry, this idea that there's commonality, okay, fine. I hear it. It's more than just that. It's true that there's commonality.
I mean, the simple answer for me is it's central because it's central.
Because God said it's central.
Yeah, our teachings have said it's central. Jews have treated it as essential, as central. It's central because it's central. I don't know why we're going much further
So
than
I
that.
think when let's hear the answer that the class is going to give, and maybe we're just trying to bring up that point.
Yeah.
So let's first talk about the history of, is it polytheism? The opposite of monotheism is polytheism. I think so, right?
Sounds right.
I guess, right? So the history of polytheism or the history of paganism. So here's how it worked. Originally, in Abraham's generation, they didn't deny that God existed. They didn't deny it. They said, of course, God existed. But God has servants. Who are the servants of God? The sun, the constellations, the stars, the moon. So God employs these servants. So like I'll give you an example. If you're eating at the host, if you're eating at a someone's hosting you at a big party, right? And the waiter who was hired by the host comes with a bottle of wine and is pouring you wine, right? So who do you say thank you when you get your glass filled? You tell the waiter, thank you. Thank you for filling my glass. Now, if you're nice to the waiter, do you get more wine? Probably. Give him a nice tip. You get more wine. But who does the wine belong to? The host, the owner. But who are you cultivating? You're cultivating the waiter because you get more. He's the one actually giving it out. It's like it's like the big CEO. You gotta be friends with the chief of staff or the secretary. Why? Secretary's nothing. No, but that's the gatekeeper. That's the one who's going to allow the person in or out. So the mistake that Abraham's generation originally made, they knew that there was a God, but originally, with a high stress on the word originally, they knew there was a God, and God employed the sun and the moon. But if you're going to serve the sun and serve the moon, what's going to happen? You're going to get more better weather, better crops. So yes, God employed them, but now they have their own decision making of how much they should of how much it should sustain the world. Now, from that went the next offshoot, which is what? Oh, the stars and the sun and the moon. The Rambam counts how this all happened. The stars, the moon, the constellations, and all that. Okay. So now there's also false prophets. There's idols. And now there's also other gods that are involved in the picture. This is a progression, or maybe the opposite of progression. What is it called? The opposite of a progression?
Regression.
A regression in the wrong direction. So let's see what Rambam says on page 25, text 13. I think we're back to Ken.
Mhm. How God was replaced by wood and stone. Idolatrous practice spread throughout the world. People worshipped images in every possible way, in offering sacrifices to them and bowing before them. As the years passed, the honored and awesome name was forgotten, and none recognized him. The entire populace, women and children included, knew nothing other than the forms of wood and stone and the temples of masonry. From their earliest youth, they were trained to bow to these images, to serve them, and to swear by their names. Even the scholars and priests among them imagined that there was no God other than the stars and the heavenly spheres, for whose sake these images had been fashioned.
So it's not just that there were some, let's call them primitive dimwits that believed in stone and wood. It's not just that. It's a lot more than that. Is that the nature of people who worship our idols still exists today. Let's look at exercise 2.1.2 on page 26. Identify examples in today's world where people make the same fundamental error as the early idolaters, placing ultimate trust, fear, or dependence on something that is merely a means or intermediary rather than the true source. Your boss, the Federal Reserve, your paycheck, the stock market. right? This idea still exists. Let's look at this video, which is maybe going to give us some examples of modern day idols. This idea of serving something that you feel that through serving it, you will get more. Let's see. You guys hear or no? You hear the sound?
Yeah.
No, you don't hear the sound. No, because
No.
give me 10 seconds. Sorry.
Zoom default. It seems
Yeah.
so stupid.
So dumb. Dumb, diggy, dumb, diggy, dumb. Hold on. You guys with me?
Yes. No sound. Oh.
We don't bow to idols anymore. We don't worship golden calves. But worship didn't disappear. It just changed shape. Today, we worship celebrities. If they wear it, we wear it. If they use it, we use it. We wait hours just to catch a glimpse of them. And we burn hours following every update of their lives. And the pull doesn't stop there. We also turn to money. We treat it like the end-all be-all, always wanting more, no matter how much we have. Listening to people simply because they have a lot of it. Trusting it to give us control, security, and happiness. And then there's success. We sacrifice time, health, and relationships for it. We fear losing it more than losing ourselves. We start to wonder who we are without it. So we say yes, when we should say no, and we aren't there when we should be. Once, bowing meant bending the knee. Now, it means bending the mind. Of course, admiring talent isn't wrong. Liking things isn't wrong. Working hard isn't wrong. The real question is, what's ultimate? When God is in the picture, everything else finds its proper size.
Bad reality, but this is today's world, guys. It's literally today's world. What'd you say, Mike?
Not a word.
What'd you say?
I didn't say anything.
I didn't hear what you said. Okay. Anyway, we have a different type of God today. Today we worship other things. You know, which horse is going to win the Kentucky Derby, and your whole life is this way or that way. I don't know what the latest thing is, right? So it could be, a partial list of who and what isn't God. For example, your boss, the doctor, right? Doctor says whatever. Okay, you take the doctor's advice. You have to work for your boss. But there's one ultimate power. That's the word. It's one ultimate in this world. Money, the stock market, government, your social media following, the latest development in AI, the weather, all these things are, yes, the problem is not having these things, but the problem is when these things start controlling and when these things start having you. That's the problem. When they become the ultimate guide and the ultimate decision influencing our decisions, that's where the problem begins. So we have to let go of those things that are taking place of where God needs to sit. So it's like giving credit to the light bulb versus giving credit to electricity. Yes, you need the light bulb to receive light, but your appreciation for the light in the room is to the invention of electricity. So yes, you need money, you have to have a boss, but what gives you the money is not the boss. It's Hashem. Through the boss, it's a fundamental difference. So idol worship today is not bowing down to stone and to wood and to I don't know what. Idol worship today is thinking that your boss is the source of your livelihood when he is not the source of your livelihood. He is God's messenger to give you a livelihood. So if you get fired, your world doesn't collapse. You trust God. That's the difference between Abraham and the nations of and the nation and the world around him at the time. The world around him at the time thought that the sun, the moon, the idols, these things are worthy because if you piss them off, you're done. But Abraham knew what? There's a God in the world, teaching monotheism. There's one God that is the sustainer of all and the controller of all. And there are many agents that God uses. There's the doctor, there's the boss, there's the president, there's the king, there's the this, there's the that. Fine, but they're not the ultimate power. That's the difference. I think it's beautiful. It's still relevant
Definitely.
today, more than ever. So, let's look at page 26, private reflections. Take a few minutes to write down any thoughts, feelings, or realizations that come to mind as you reflect on the following two questions. Don't rush. This is your time to think deeply and honestly about how monotheism relates to your own life. Number one, what is my idol of choice? Something specific in my life that I rely on more than I should. Number two, how would my life change if I internalized the idea that there's only one God, only one power, and everything else in my life is a tool, an intermediary, or a blessing from Him? So, this is the idea. We can treat money, success, people, institutions, we could treat that all as a God. And the goal of Abraham's teaching is that we need to recognize that there's one God. Okay? Text 14a, page 727. Ken?
From chaos. There were many gods. They fought, struggled, and established hierarchies of dominance, slowly establishing order out of chaos. We have many records of those ancient times, and through the names of the god and other gods, names of the gods change depending on whether we speak of Mesopotamia, Egypt, Canaan, or ancient Greece. The stories are remarkably similar. The god of the sky does battle with the god of the sea, and out of his victory establishes dry land, usually over the dead body of his slain victim. The god of lightning and rain impregnates the goddess of the earth, and thus crops grow, and the land brings forth its produce. The ancient world was one in which order was constantly threatened by chaos, at times in the form of floods and droughts, at others by war from invading tribes. Through the stories they told, they explained to themselves why this is so. Disturbances here reflect more ultimate struggles elsewhere between the gods.
So, this polytheism or paganism believed that we are at the mercy of these massive global powers that were battling, and we were just the byproduct of it. So these gods were jealous, they were prideful, they were full of anger, and they each had a specific domain. And the more you sacrifice or you give to each god, the more that god is going to be more appeased to you. So you're always at fear of, offending a god, saying the wrong prayer, giving the wrong sacrifice. That was literally that was literally the world that Abraham was born into. Okay, 14b, Ken.
To order. The account of creation in the first chapter of Genesis is stunningly original, quite unlike any other in antiquity. There are no contending forces, no battles of the gods, no capricious spirits. God speaks and the universe comes into being. God is not in nature but above it, transcending it and ordering it according to his word. Nature has no will or set of wills of its own.
Beautiful. This is the idea. The idea is that this world has an order. There's a boss. There's someone that's spoken to this world and it came into being. There's a perfect balance. Monotheism brings coherence to a chaotic world. So Abraham introduced this again, to say, guys, you're everyone's full of anxiety and uncertainty, and we're in we're like a straw, like a straw floating in a turbulent, rapid filled waters and waves, and we're crashing, and we're just like this purposeless at the mercy of all these massive powers. And Abraham brought calm. And Abraham says, no, there's a God that ordered all this. There's a God that created all this, that designed all this. And this is the same, I think, even today. If we say that we are a byproduct of all these forces in the world, governments, politicians, stock markets, bosses, people around us, influencers, all these things. If we are just if this is not designed by a God, then we could we're just at the flow and the mercy of all these powers. And the answer is that no, there's a Hashem in this world. There's a beautiful God that created this thing. Let's look at King David, Psalm 23, text 15 on page 28. Mike.
Trust and serenity from Psalm 23, verses 1 to 2 and 4, a song by David. God is my shepherd, I will not lack. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Even when I walk in the valley of death's shadow, I will fear no evil, for you are with me.
It's maybe appropriate, Mike, to plug the Tehillim.
Always, always. Our class twice a month on the Psalms. We did 23 a couple of weeks ago.
Every second Friday, not the last
The first and third Friday of every month.
I'm sorry, first and third. Okay, yeah. That is different, by the way, than every second. But yes, first and third Friday of every month. Exactly. What is this? This is look, read these beautiful words from King David. It's like, God's my shepherd. I'm gonna be okay. God's gonna take care of me. And King David had a lot of problems and a lot of turbulence and a lot of haters and a lot of people wanted to kill him and make it. But he said, what? He makes you lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. Even if I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I'll feel no evil, for you are with me. There's an owner, there's a designer.
And the
Boss.
counter of that is, I think there's more of, people thinking they're the master themselves. And so when things are going right and you don't need green pastures and talk about,
Right.
that you should know that whatever good comes to, it's from God, not from you.
They take full credit, of course.
It did not initiate with you.
Yep.
And that's kind of sobering.
You don't exactly. You'll be if you take the credit for the good times, then you have to take the responsibility of the bad times. But if you say that the good times are not mine, they're from God, then you rely on him, you're working on that dimension, then the bad times are not going to come. God's going to take care of you. We start every week with Havdalah, and the Havdalah, we open up with this next text 16. Hine el Yeshua si eftach v'la yefchad ki yaziv zir Mashiach dinai v'hilu Yeshua. Indeed, God is my deliverance. I am confident, and I will not be afraid. For God is my strength and my song, and he has been my salvation. Boom. That is monotheism, ladies and gentlemen. You're walking with the power of Hashem every single day, not in this turbulent world of, crazy powers that are battling it out. And we're just this byproduct standing there praying that, I don't get a sledgehammer on my head. No, King David walked with strength and with confidence and no anxiety. Think King David had anxiety? He had no anxiety. If I was in King David's shoes, I'd be riddled with anxiety. But he didn't have anxiety. He knew God's with me. That's monotheism. All right. The last part of today's class, we're going to discuss the second of the seven Noahide laws. The first one was monotheism. The second one is a prohibition against cursing God. Let's see, Barry, please. Or Mike. Mike?
I just read.
Okay, Barry.
Cursing God. The prohibition against cursing God might seem trivial at first glance, but is deeply rooted in the essence of monotheism. Denying God's goodness strikes at the heart of a meaningful, ordered universe.
There we go. So, cursing God, atheism denies God's existence, which is one level, but cursing God rejects the idea that God is a good God. If you're cursing at God, you don't believe he's a good God. And that is very different than atheism. Atheism says, okay, you don't exist. But to curse, it means that you exist and you're bad. That's worse than atheism. God is righteous, and that is at the core belief system of building a civilization. Number one, the first belief is that there's monotheism, that to build a civilization, by the way, this country was founded on those principles. We'll talk about it a little bit later, not right now, but that's number one. And number two is that this God, that is the one God, is a good God. Because if he's a one God and a bad God, we're in trouble again. So it has to be that he's also good. Has to be. So let's see text 17a, 17b. Bernice, please.
Righteous and benevolent. God is good to all, and his compassion is upon all his creations. God is righteous in all his ways and benevolent in all his deeds.
If you have power without goodness, then you have Ayatollah Khamenei. Then you have tyrants. Then you have, what's the guy from Libya? Benghazi. What's his name? Who? Whatever the heck that guy's name was. What was his name?
Who are we talking about?
Gaddafi.
Gaddafi.
Whatever. You have Saddam Hussein and Gaddafi, and I don't know. I don't want to use whatever. This is the problem. You have power without goodness. That's what happens. So you have to be, if God is monotheism, you have to be that this God is also good. But it
then,
goes hand in hand.
under the reject God's goodness, it's hard to grapple with that when you see evil happening. It's again that same, complex thing that I struggle with, and people struggle with that. You curse God because God let this happen, type of thing. So
I knew this was going to come up,
yeah,
and it's a struggle. I mean, it's not. There is no. Moses struggled with it when he asked God, "Show me your glory." He was basically asking God for to show him the reason for suffering, why suffering
right.
exists. And God said, it's impossible for a human being to see my face and survive and be a human being, which means the commentaries say that God was responding to Moses, impossible for me for you to understand suffering and to be alive. But yeah, it's an age-old question.
Right. But anyway,
Yeah.
don't want to labor on that.
Yeah, but we do know that kol man da'avid latav avid, which means anything that God does is for the good. If someone, God forbids, I was just speaking to somebody today that lost a pregnancy at a pretty significant state, and we don't understand why. It's very difficult. But anything that God gives, we know is good. Why? I don't know. I don't know. But that's what we know. Okay, Bernice, next text, please.
Fair and just. For your God is the God of gods and the Lord of lords, the great, mighty, and awe-inspiring God, who shows no favoritism and takes no bribes. He carries out justice for the orphan and the widow, and he loves the stranger, giving them bread and clothing.
This is from Deuteronomy. This is from our beloved, beautiful Torah. So cursing God strikes at the core of monotheism. That's why it goes hand in hand. Number one and number two are hand in hand. Because monotheism without this prohibition of cursing means that you believe that there's a God that is not good, that is not also goodness and compassion, and that can't exist. In the last part of today's class, we're going to talk about this idea of chosenness. Let's try to do this in under 5 minutes. Back to Ken.
Chosenness to responsibility. We are now ready for a fresh perspective on the concept of Jewish chosenness, one that is less about exclusivity and more about responsibility. This responsibility is at the core of Jewish identity, and it calls upon us to teach and exemplify a higher moral standard that can connect all people to God.
Okay. I meet Jews every day that have a hard time with this idea. What do you mean chosen? Why can't I just be regular? Why can't I just be just a regular guy? Why I got to be chosen and then I have to have suffering and have to people hate me? I can't just be a regular guy, right? Okay, let's see what this means. So, Ken, let's read 18, please.
A nation of spiritual mentors. And you will be for me a kingdom of priests. Exodus. You will be a unique treasure to me in the sense that you will be a kingdom of priests whose mission is to guide and teach the entire human race to call upon the name of God and to serve him with one purpose.
This is the mission. Teach the entire human race. Is that easy? Not really. But this is what it means that we are going to be, that we are chosen. We have a responsibility. It's different. It's a little bit different. We are designated spiritual guides. You get a tour guide, tells you where's what. That's our job. That we have to do it. You could say, I'm not ready for it. Okay, I hear you. But that's the mission statement. Mike, let's do 19A, 19B, please.
19a, a light unto the nations from Isaiah. I, God, have called you with righteousness. I will strengthen your hand. I will protect you, and I will set you as a covenant for all people and a light unto the nations.
Sounds
And
familiar.
it really does. And Rabbi David Kimchi teaching the Noahide laws. The Jewish people are destined to be a light unto the nations, as the verse states, nations will go by your light. This refers to the light of the Torah, which will issue forth to them from Zion. The Jewish people will be the cause of the sustenance of the nations of the world through guiding them to observe the 7 Noahide laws and to walk in the proper path. As the verse states, multitudes of nations will go to each other and tell one another, come, let us ascend to the mountain of God, to the temple of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways, so that we may walk in his paths.
The call to be a light unto the nations is what it means to be chosen. Not that we are better, not that we have different that we could walk around with our nose in the air all stuck up. No, we are burdened with a responsibility to connect all people with Hashem and to teach these 7 Noahide laws. That's what it is, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope that we have a better understanding on number one, Judaism's message. Now that we read this, are we an insular, exclusive club? Not really, right? Not
Right.
really. We're not here to say, hey, now you could say, hey, look at this community and that community, and other community. Look at them. They just hide in the bunker in the basement and they do their own thing, and they put big walls around their communities. Okay, I'm not here to, I don't know. I'm telling you what it says in the good book. We have to be a light unto the nations. We have to go out there on top of the milk crates in the town square and we have to speak. Today, the milk crate in the town square is probably your phone on but the idea is for us internally to know that this is what Hashem has in mind for us. And why? Because we are descendants of Abraham. And why did Hashem choose Abraham? Because Abraham saw to it that he went and tried to save humanity. When it came to Sodom and Gomorrah, when it came to him teaching about monotheism, Abraham went out and just did it. And that's the message of every Jew on planet Earth. To be this idea, this guide, this light, and that's what we're chosen. Chosen is not a stuck-up thing, but chosen is an idea that we're burdened with a responsibility to do this, which is to teach the 7 Noahide laws. Let's look at a video to summarize today's lesson.
Message of Abraham. 1. Judaism appears exclusive because the Torah frames the Jewish people as a distinct nation with a unique covenant. Yet this separateness is only part of the picture. The story of Abraham shows that Judaism includes a universal moral mission for all humanity. 2. Abraham differed from Noah by caring about the fate of all people, not only his own family. His bold advocacy for Sodom reveals that Judaism begins with care for the world, not isolation. 3. God chose Abraham because he taught others to live by righteousness and justice and the values contained in the 7 Noahide laws. Jews are commanded to teach these laws, and anyone who observes them earns the title righteous among the nations, with a share in the world to come. 4. Monotheism, the first of the 7 laws, revolutionized human thought by replacing a chaotic world of competing forces with one creator and one coherent moral order. Modern materialism repeats ancient errors by attributing power to intermediaries rather than the true source. 5. Cursing God, the second of the 7 laws, is prohibited because it undermines the core of monotheism. It denies God's goodness, collapsing the trust on which a meaningful, ordered universe depends. 6. Chosenness is not about superiority, but responsibility. The Jewish mission is to safeguard and share a universal moral framework for all humankind.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Next week, we are going to discover the source of morality, where it comes from, and why is logic and maybe science and logical conclusions not enough? And what's this idea of the sanctity of human life, that we are created in the image of God, and some interesting principles. So thank you for joining us for lesson 1, and we hope to see you for lesson 2. And those of you that are going to watch this recording, I hope you're inspired. All the best. So we can stop the recording, Mike.